The Apache Junction work session to get to order. Roll call.
Mayor Surtee,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Councilmember Barker,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Rizzi,
Present.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Here.
Councilmember Struble,
Here.
all present. You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Presentation and discussion on the consideration of entering into an agreement with Roadway Electric LLC. Shane?
You have jokes, right? No?
Jokes? I might look like a joker tonight, but. Good evening, council, mayor, vice mayor, council members. Beautiful Monday evening, so thank you. First one up here tonight, so happy to be the first one. Talk about traffic signal repair services. So I just have a quick presentation for you tonight, but the main thing is for you to ask any questions or any concerns. It's been a while since we've had a like service in place. It's been about 10 years. We have had traffic signal services in the past, but it's been a while, so that's why I wanted to give this opportunity for you tonight. Some background, as I mentioned, we had this before. It's just a good emergency management practice to have some emergency support services provide in agreement with by a contractor. So when we talk about hazardous mitigation, oftentimes you hear that phrase, a collaborative all hazards approach. So this is our attempt to get a contractor in place to give support to our in-house staff. Our traffic signals are becoming more critical as a critical facility every year. As traffic goes up, we just can't afford to not give attention to those type of facilities. Also, we do have occasional problems where we need that contractor help, so this contract would help our response times with getting these repairs to our signals. The last emergency we had with the signals is the Phelps Apache Trail just a few months ago, where we had a short out in the wiring of the traffic signal. It was causing some problems with the timing and the phasing. We had to bring a contractor in to help pull the wire and diagnose the problem. So things like that do occur. We all know about collisions too. Knock on wood, we haven't had a significant one, but we've had some collisions with traffic signal heads, for example, with some high profile vehicles where we've needed some contractor support with that. So this agreement, and it could be considered a consideration of award, but I like to say agreement because we aren't guaranteeing the contractor we will be spending any money with them, just when we need them. So this is only for emergency support services as needed. And it's an existing contractor through the city of Mesa off of their contract, and it's a contractor we've used a few times in the past successfully, so they're a good contractor. Also, we do use city of Mesa standard specifications for our signals, so the contractor is very familiar with our systems that we have with our traffic signals. And a little bit specifically with the agreement also puts some of these things in place for us. It is automatic annual renewal up to about 3 years. We're jumping into a current agreement, piggybacking off so I think it's going to be a little bit less than 3 years, but Mesa does have an optional renewal beyond that 3 years just to give time to put another specification bid package back out on the street. So our max aggregate amount for the life of this contract is $500,000 with a max of $100,000 a year. So if you do the quick math, you'd think that's $300,000, but like I just said, Mesa has the option of extending that beyond the 3 years, so that's why I put the 500 there, just to give us that option beyond the 3 years with any delayed extension of the contract. And this is based off the City of Mesa's cooperative contract. In the last couple of years, we have went in a collaborative type of contract with Mesa, and I look to do this in the future. So the next time around Mesa puts this out in the street, I like to go in with them at the start because I think we have opportunities to gain more on the economy of scales if we go into a front-end contract. So I am going to be looking forward to doing this with Mesa when that time comes. And Mesa's agreement is exhibit on our agreement, which I believe was supplied in your packet. And one thing that's very nice about it, I like, is very descriptive or prescriptive. A lot of different unit pricings, and you could see in there it goes to quite detail when it comes to different things when it comes to our traffic signals, which is great. We know what to expect. Contractor knows what to expect with this agreement. Also, this agreement puts in place those certs of insurance, some of that paperwork that takes time to get in place, especially when you're in a hurry and an emergency, that stuff will be in place. So, like I said, we'll have a better response time. And I'm looking to come back, discussion tonight, looking to come back in a couple weeks on the 19th as a consent item. Any questions or comments?
So in essence, we don't have a retainer, it's just an as-need basis. And where are we as far as, you know, though, I'm assuming this company, it's already with Mesa. How are we assured that we are gonna get a relatively quick response time and they're not just gonna, you know, push us aside because Mesa might have X amount problems also? How are we assured that our problems are gonna be solved in a timely manner?
Yeah, Councilmember Struble, I don't think we are really assured, except we'll put this in place that will help liken more the chances of their availability to respond to us. For example, when Phelps, Apache went out, we were at the mercy of the contractor that we did have because they had some other projects going on. However, this agreement with the contractor shows that we are piggybacking off of Mesa's contract and want to help reinforce some of those requirements that Mesa is also in their contract as well. Anything else?
Well, we are working through a trial, so if it doesn't work out, we can.
Yep, annual renewal, so that means we could get out even sooner, even being that we aren't tied to the Mesa contract.
You pointed it out, I was gonna ask that, you anticipated that, I know. It's still ambiguous the way it's written. I mean, it's written as though 3-year contract will pay out as much as $500,000, even though it says there's only $100 or $100,000 per, it's really.
Per year.
That's very strange. That's on page 3, Joel, 4. And I see where the contractor will be responsible for licenses, taxes, et cetera, here in the city, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So he'll just bill those back to us then?
Yeah, as applicable with whatever the project is. City business license also would be as part of that as well.
Mr.
Is that
Mayor,
it on this one then, Shane?
do you want me to comment on that, Mr. Mayor?
If you have something.
I'm looking at, I think it's understood it's $100,000 per annual contract term. I think that is the understanding of Mr. Hale, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and I think it reads okay. I think it's all right. But if you want something changed, we can certainly do that.
I just wanted to point out the fact that if they come back with 500,000, okay? As we said.
Just for example, what did the problem we had there at Phelps? We
Phelps
have
was a result of some old wiring.
Right, but what did that cost us, or what was the?
It ended up being around 10,000 to rewire. Yep. All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on centralizing a citizen complaint process in the city manager's office using social media with personal, technological, and budgetary considerations. Does Gail start this?
Why I wanted to talk about this tonight, it's kind of a couple of different pieces. One of the things I've been unhappy with as of late is our phone directory. And Jeff, you keep talking about people reaching out on social media. Well, for a citizen to call the city with a complaint, you have to go through the Rotary thing, and you can leave a message, but absolutely. And you know, even though we have the extensions, a lot of times we can't get a hold of someone, and that's terribly frustrating to the public. The phone system that we currently have, we've had for how many years now? We're a lot bigger now, is my point.
Yeah.
And because we're in the part right now of our budgetary meetings and everything for our June budget, I'd like to talk about actually hiring someone to do nothing but answer the phone, Because sometimes if someone's mad and upset, if you can just let it out, even though that person can't necessarily solve it, at least you know the message is going to get wherever it has to go and get a call back. Now, with the social media, it's kind of like the way the city has it set up now, like Parks and Rec has a Facebook, Paws and Claws has a Facebook, but there's not a centralized spot, you know, and what we had talked about is people that go to the Paws and Claws. Oh, you want me to talk up? Nobody ever asks me to talk up. If people go to the Paws and Claws, say, Facebook site, they miss everything else that we have on the other pages. You know, sort of like on the internet, how we have the home page, but it has the buttons where, you know, visitors, government, Paws and Claws, so that we come up with a system so if you're constantly going to the Paws and Claws, you can see what else is happening, kind of to broaden it out some. I am not a social media fan by any means, but there's certain people that's all they want to use, but we also have people, if they could speak to someone right away and solve the problem, and even maybe calm someone down. I think we're to the size now that our phone system isn't adequate. Does that make sense?
So I need a little bit more clarification on the phone part of it. I have a couple comments about the social media, but for the phone part, so I'm trying to understand what you mean. When people call, say, and I don't mean to pick on the city clerk, but I'll pick on the city clerk. So when people call the city clerk's office, they're getting a recording, or when they call
Well, no.
Public Works, they're getting a recording?
When you call the main number, it says this is the city of Apache Junction. If you want development services, press 1. If you want city clerk's office, you know, press 2.
The general number.
But you don't get to talk to anybody. You can always leave a message, but that's all you can do. And I think we're bigger now. We have to have a more professional presence at the phone part of it.
So then when people get, okay, so press 5 for Public Works. When they press 5, does a person pick up at Public Works? Are they picking up, or no?
So let me take a stab on that. We've actually been working as a staff to do some data analysis on this, and what we've discovered is on the 8002 number, which is our general number, the number we believe is manageable with existing staff to answer those direct lines. And so I don't know, Matt, are we 2 weeks away from starting I want to start a 3-month pilot program where we're actually collecting those data, the types of calls, what are they asking us for? Is it for city related? Are they for Social Security? Are they for the county? We'll be able to provide a report back to you all on those general numbers. I believe that most of the people that reach out to us directly through the phone will directly go to the police department. They'll directly call the Parks Department. So they are getting a voice. I don't want to even say a number, 90% of the time, but it's a vast majority of the time they're getting somebody. So I think we can manage all the general numbers. If we need another person, that'd be definitely something we could talk about through the budget process.
So
That's the phone system.
Would this person, this call center person, would this person have to be versed in all the different departments? I mean, because other than that, what would she do? Say, okay, I'm going to transfer you over to this department, and then they just get the machine anyways? Or are they going to, I understand though, hey, let me talk you down. Hey, what's the problem? You know,
Right.
you want to talk to somebody, here I am, talk to me. But ultimately, if she's not going to be able to really help them, or he,
Well, we could help them get to the right department and or get to the right agency. The city government, as you may guess, people believe we know everything about everything. We know what business is going on what vacant lot. We know what's going on to answer Social Security. So that person is going to have to be trained to some degree where we can point them to if they didn't get to the right agency or to the right department. I honestly feel like those are not a huge number, but we can kind of see what those numbers are.
And Bryant, when I saw this on the agenda, we did talk about it a little bit. And I've asked before about cross-training, and maybe not cross-training, but cross-referring. And I always say that Parks and Rec is the face of the city, because when you're here on the weekends, Parks and Rec is out there at an event, and, they all need to know, boy, I'm thinking of moving out here, what should I do, or who should I do? Let them know, oh, that's this department, and if somebody does go to the clerk's office, have them all know, oh, no, you gotta go over here and have everybody be helpful, and I think that the staff is helpful, more helpful than they were when I got elected 10 years ago. So I think that would be a good idea, and like, one of our examples would be, how frustrated are we if you ever tried to call MediaCom? And
Yeah,
we've demanded that MediaCom have somebody there to take our calls.
Yeah.
I agree. We need to have a voice. We're working on getting a voice that we can get rid of the whole general number. But that doesn't mean that we won't have people leaving messages, but we need to get them to the right department. We need to get them to the service.
And
that they needed.
and we have some departments that are very small. I may have 3 people. If 2 are in lunch and 1's running an errand, I come over here during the day, and you and Matt are both at lunch, and
Right.
it's tough to find someone. Finally, you will. So that it could be frustrating for a caller. So on the next part
So
of
we'll
it,
definitely start with that, and then I think we'll have enough time, because we're getting the IT or the technology in place to be able to do that we can report back during the budgetary. I mean, I agree, this is the time and place to talk about these things in terms of budget. And so we will have an answer on how we're doing on that.
on the next part, can we have Al or Matt come to the podium to, because I think a lot of that is just linking somehow. Because unless you're a Parks and Recreation friend, you're not necessarily going to see what they put out on Facebook. Al, do you have numbers on how many followers there are on Parks and Rec and Paws and Claws, et cetera?
Good evening, Mayor Surtee, members of the City Council, Al Bravo, Public Information Officer for the City of Apache Junction. I do know that every one of our Facebook pages, which we have a half dozen, so like you said, there's a city page, there's a parks page, there is a police page, there's a Paws and Claws page, and there's a library page, and then, of course, we have Visit AJ, which is kind of our tourism/economic development page. All of them have in the thousands. The problem, of course, is that there's so much overlap on some of those. So if I say we have a couple thousand followers on our city page, part of those are also following library and parks and other
And
places.
if I'm in Nebraska and I'm going to make a visit out here, I don't know those pages exist.
Right.
So
right.
how do you
But-
let them know?
But you do, at least if you have some idea on how to search for things of those nature, you're going to probably find the city page. The city page is pretty easy to find, City of Apache Junction, so it's not that hard to find. And we're very cognizant from our office and all of our partners of the other departments throughout the city of sharing and making sure we have a handle on what everybody is posting and where people are commenting on the other pages. Those are things we all are very consistent about keeping track of, because we do know they may find a parks page or a police page before they find a city page, even if they're looking for something different. So we're real cognizant of that, and then we go maybe a little farther, and I'm really paying attention to maybe the Chamber of Commerce page, or I'm paying attention to the school district page, or anything along those lines, and keeping in touch with the folks who handle all of those. So part of this, I think, is also an understanding of how social media works, and in this case, we're really talking about Facebook specifically. People are going to find things the way they're going to find things, and they're going to comment on things the way they comment on things. They're not going to necessarily come to the city page to complain about, something when they're going to do that in another forum.
When
But
you're
I do
talking
know,
about the city page, you're talking the
Yeah.
city Facebook page.
correct, the city
'Cause then
Facebook
there's
page.
also the city website.
Correct.
Which is not that easy to navigate.
That is nice.
And that's obviously a different discussion, but it is another avenue of communication that we use. Obviously, our webpage is one that we send a lot of folks for background, for additional information. We constantly are updating that homepage with news, things that are coming up, things that have happened within the city. And then the Facebook pages obviously are another avenue that are reaching another audience.
So instantly, Krista agreed with me on there. Are we looking into making our regular webpage more navigable?
I can tell you that our initial research, and I'm talking about the citizen survey that we've done now twice in the last 2 years, the response we get from those folks is they get a lot of our news from the webpage. So people are finding stuff somehow. I think any kind of webpage can be somewhat intuitive and or not intuitive. Certainly for those of us who know how to navigate government websites, they can do that. That doesn't mean everybody thinks that same way. So we're always looking for any kind of specific kinds of suggestions on our webpage or anything along those lines. We have a really good search engine within the page, and it's right there, right when you call it up, whether you're doing it on a mobile device or you're doing it on a laptop or a desktop, and you can put in your search engine string very easily to try to find something. The other thing we have to understand, and I know my counterpart, Mr. McNulty, has done a lot of this research. We are now seeing more visitors on mobile devices than we are on desktop devices. That also changes the way we think about our website. So that will definitely be part of our reconsiderations. We're probably due for a refresh, a revamp of some sort pretty much in the near future, but that has to be part of the discussion. People are watching us on a phone, on a tablet, much more than they are at their desk. And so that has to, it does not, yes, we translate, but it doesn't exactly look the same as we see it in our office.
Well, it kind of goes back to what I said about someone answering the phone. If someone from their mobile phone called the city, they could address them to each different, depending on the area they're calling on. But you just have to have that upfront person with some information.
Right.
You know, and like I said, sometimes you just got to download on somebody that you feel like you've been heard. Because I don't think we've done a real good job on that. I mean, it has forced people, I believe, to use the different chat rooms just to have somebody to complain about. Because you can't really leave an angry message on anybody's voicemail and expect an immediate response. You know?
I will
Just
tell
doesn't-
you that all of our pages do get messages, you know, internal Facebook messages, and we also
Sure.
get phone messages of lots of angry people and people trying to find something and having a frustration of doing that. I will also tell you from talking to my colleagues in the other cities, excuse me, every city has the, you know, chat room, forums out there, and it's very much like what we deal with here. So we're not immune to any of that. We're certainly not unique in that way. It is another way. How everybody addresses it, I will tell you, is very different. Not every city addresses it the same way we do.
Well, I want to compliment Brian's staff. When I do call and I reach Jill, Jill is on top of a lot of stuff, and she knows the city. She knows the streets. Like this last week, they were wanting us to fix potholes on 114th Street, which is obviously not in a city, so whoever's answering needs to have that basic.
Parts of 114th Street are in the city?
This one wasn't.
Okay.
This was
The senior
far
cottages
north. Yeah,
is on 114th Street, yep.
yeah. Did you?
I
I
wanna-
just had a couple comments to make. I'm sorry. Brian, I'll wait until after you talk.
I would just make one quick comment on the website. It is a goal of ours, and Matt McNulty will be able to answer it, but we do need to do a refresher on it, and I don't know if it'll be in this year's budget, but thank you, Al. We will, as we work with the mobile sites, want to be updating the website. It has been a little while on that.
So I would definitely have, with the websites, several suggestions. I've gone there, I've had to email different people and say, hey, where do I find this, where do I find that? I'm not great at technology, but fairly knowledgeable, and so for me to have a difficult time navigating on the website, that we got to work on it, and I have a lot of suggestions. With social media, I don't think you're ever going to completely get away from people that are going to go to social media and complain.
Oh,
because
you'll never get away from it.
Because we live in a world right now where things are instant, and that's what people nowadays prefer. And I think the way that the city handles complaints on social media has been really great. I think we've been responsive. I think those of us that are on social media can get it to the proper person in the city, and it's been responded to. The person in the city gets with the person making the complaint. We find out what's going on, de-escalate the situation, validate what they're saying. They may not be right, they may not be wrong, but we at least acknowledge the person making the complaint and go from there and find out how we can resolve it. So I would say that what's happening on social media regarding complaints, A, is being handled incredibly well, and B, is not happening all that often. But you're never gonna get away from that. And I understand, what Gail said, that people just want to be acknowledged, and when you do that, a lot of times it takes that wind out of the sails, and then they can calm down and figure out where they want to go. What I'm confused about is the phone thing, because anytime I've picked up the phone, if I've needed a specific department, I've gotten somebody has always answered, and so I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, it's the 802
Specifically-
number, it's the general number.
Okay.
There is there is a general number that, how would you articulate it, Al? I mean,
It would be the main number. It's 982-8002. So it would be the same thing as if you had a big corporation that had a phone number that was, 222-1000. That number is not always has not been answered by a live person in our organization until we do that very soon. But in a corporate situation, you might have an operator. You can kind of think of the old days with an operator there that that knows the entire phone directory of that company and can get you to the right place. So think of it that way. The interesting part about that is, we are growing. So do we have to rethink that too? Because people aren't using the phone the way we used to. They are using social media, they are using the website, or they are using, other means to get their message across or to try to get an answer on
Yeah,
something.
they have to at this point.
Yes, they do.
That we've made it the only way to do it. But we don't publish any of the 474 numbers, correct?
we publish.
On the
Yeah,
website,
we
they're,
do,
they're on the website.
Okay.
Not for every single, well, I take
For
that
every
back. No,
department.
there is a directory. If you could put in a name of a city staffer,
Oh.
their number will come up, yes.
Yeah, but then you have to know people, so just somebody.
So the best example I would give is Pinal County organization is getting bigger. It goes to kind of how big you're getting. They have a 311 service. So anywhere, is that right? It's the 311, not 411. Yeah, you can dial 311 and get to Pinal County general operator. And then they also have a 1-800 number.
Well, one that I hate, and I don't know if this even ties in, is I answer every call that I get, and I get back to every call. And when I get a call that just says 5,000, I don't know who to call back.
Yeah. It's frustrating.
Yeah, somebody from the city called, it's gotta be important. Who is that? And I have no idea who that is. How can we work on that?
Matt Busby could talk to that. We have trained our staff to use and leave a message with you so that you know who that is. They're not supposed to not leave a message, yeah. But the technology behind it.
Yeah, so the idea is, it's difficult to explain,
can
but
have her
it's a voice over IP system. And we basically have one line going out that all of our sublines kind of feed into and go out. To have every line go out and show up on a caller ID is very expensive. And with this technology, but there's more to it than that. I'm not the IT director, but the idea is it funnels it
We just have
throughout
to check
one pipe.
We just have to check our messages.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every once in a while we'll have a staff member that doesn't leave a message for whatever reason, and usually they'll come into the clerk's office, call them and say, I got a 5,000 number and I don't know why they're calling me, and so we'll usually call them back from the city manager's office and apologize and tell them the same thing we're telling you. We train staff to leave messages, and that we try to help them figure it out. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, so.
Yeah, I can't think of an instance where I've ever had that happen where a staff didn't leave a voicemail. Again, I'd say that we're doing really good in that area.
So we'll work right away on the 8002 or having someone answer that number. Here's the staff directory. And then we'll report back during the budget process on that. Is there any other to-dos?
Does the captain have anything to add on linking in with everything, or?
He was sleeping.
Direct 802
Wake him up.
Police Department.
Poor guy.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. and city staff. We're in the process of hiring a new community resource coordinator who will be our social media guru, will monitor that. That's really the only gap we've had in terms of our phone service. We answer 982-8260, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year with a live person. So I think most of the problems that are being experienced aren't being experienced from our department, or at least we hope not, because we respond to both non-emergency and emergency calls 24 hours a day.
Definitely get a live person there.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of social media, that will eventually become a 24/7 thing because people have different schedules and they may be up at 2
And I
o'clock in the
usually
morning.
alert when we're being slammed unjustly, say, hey,
Yes,
this is happening, can somebody come in and do damage control?
Yes, sir. And we appreciate members of the council and the mayor, you letting us know because we're a little thin in that area right now without the community resource coordinator, and without your assistance, we probably couldn't we wouldn't be able to, know all of that. So we appreciate that.
When we forward those, it's not to be a tattler,
Yeah.
it's just so that you're aware, because we know that you can't be on the social media when, we're out there, we're just an extra pair of ears and eyes, so it's not to tattle, it's to say, hey, there's a situation you should be aware of.
Absolutely, and you frequently apologize for it, but we want to get back with you and let you know that it's been addressed, because the worst thing to know is you've sent something out and you never hear again about it. So we do want to let you know we did resolve it, or we did contact that person, or the person maybe was a little misguided, or the person maybe had the incorrect information and we corrected it for them. So,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Your Honor, I just
Yes.
wanted to add one thing. As far as social media, with the city having all these different pages, just an opinion, it would be difficult, I think, to link them all, to link Paws and Claws and PD and everything to one social media page. There's no way that you could list all the dogs, all the situations with the traffic control, with, what's happening with Public Works. And so I have found that actually having the different separate pages makes it easier for us to control where the people are having an issue, because they go to Paws and Claws, they go to the PD site, they go to the city site on social media. And so I can't imagine how we would combine it. I don't know, maybe if there's a way to list the different links to the departments in case somebody's on one of the wrong social media pages. But in order to combine them all, I think would be absolutely confusing.
But to combine them, it's the link. On the main.
So could you have a pull-down menu on every page that just gave you a link to it? Is that something you could do or not?
Facebook doesn't really allow you to do anything along those lines. I think what we could do is make sure we're referring everybody and reminding everybody maybe periodically, if you're looking for information about the animal shelter, go to Paws and Claws and give that link. If you're looking for information in the library, here's the library link. That's probably the best we can do, because Facebook does just not allow you to. Remember, you have a lot of layover between the different groups. You have people who are subscribed to all of those pages at once, and so they're not going to be able to be merged in that way. So there's probably other things we can do, but unfortunately Facebook doesn't quite allow us to do something along those lines.
So the solution would be to encourage folks that are interested to like the pages, and then as they are interested, the algorithm that Facebook connects to what people are interested to would start coming up.
And
how
it
does
would
that
start
work?
coming up on their page that way too. And then, like I said, maybe some periodic reminders wouldn't hurt.
Anyone else? So, looks like you guys are already working on it, so there's situations and,
We do. City managers all over state still trying to figure out this Facebook and how to build it and use it to our best use. And we have a whole younger generation that, like my kids, they don't even have Facebook accounts. They're doing Instagram and Snapchat. How's that going to impact? The Facebook generation's kind of the
old folks.
maybe, yeah. And so we're trying to, when we do our surveys to see what people like to get, of course, there's all different avenues. And so we're working our hardest to figure out the best way to do it. And Input is great, keep coming. I think we definitely have room to improve on. So PD is gonna be working on their effort. They're gonna be hiring a staff member on the Facebook. We'll be working on our phones and website as well.
And a couple years from now, it may morph again, so we'll have to stay
Yeah.
on top of it. So I'm sure we're gonna come out of this in a better situation than we are now, so. Are we ready to move on? Okay. Presentation and discussion on a code of conduct applicable to the council, board, and commission members. Joel and Bryant?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor of City Council. What you have is the 3/4/19 red line, and that includes the most recent changes from the last meeting. And in that version, I also accepted the 2/19 changes, but I provided the 2/19 changes to you also separately, and then, of course, a clean copy. We can go through those. There's not too many of those changes on the 3/4, but if you have specific questions, I thought we included everything that you were looking for from the last meeting.
I have comments when you're finished.
Well, why don't we just start with comments then?
Well, I'm glad this got delayed several times, because the further it went, the less and less there were things in it that I liked. And on number 10, instead of trying to tweak it, I think the whole thing should just be struck. Just strike that whole paragraph. There's been several situations, there's gonna be a lot more in the future, and we're gonna be hamstringing future councils if we're not allowed to communicate with citizens and residents. And I think,
Your Honor,
yes,
the verbiage there simply says use caution. It doesn't prohibit anything, it doesn't do anything but say use caution. Be reasonable, logical, rational. When you talk to folks that might be involved in lawsuits with the city, and I think that's a good thing to have there. It doesn't say anything about not speaking to them, it simply says use caution. And I think that's good advice.
so Joel, this whole thing, if this gets approved, then it is not, what, does it have any teeth? Does Councilmember X has done something, do we then pull up ARS whatever here and said, look right here, you violated this? Or what? How does it, what will be the results of this?
Mr. Mayor, Council, this is going to be a guideline. It'd be a past guideline, that if someone wanted to make a complaint, I suppose they could come to the council and say, and remember, it started out with board members. That's where the thing originated, and it got expanded to council. But does it have any teeth? Do you lose your councilhood or your board? No. But the issue could be brought forward so that there could be a reference in a meeting where someone wants to talk about it. Does that have to happen? No. There could also be communication with an individual if there's a complaint made that could be separate from a public process. But it's basically guidelines that are common. It's meant to be a common sense approach for how you conduct yourselves, and including board and commission members.
Okay, for instance, Tempe right now is going through a situation where they have a council member that they may vote to kick off. Does that come out of a document like this, or is that coming out of something else? How are they able to do that?
Mr. Mayor, Tempe has a charter, and a charter is like their constitution, and it's something they're allowed to have pursuant to state law, and they're allowed to dictate whether something like that would kick a member off the council, and they have to vote on it. Phoenix has an ethics committee, I believe, and there's members on the committee that the council approves, and they do it that process that way, and they have a separate committee that decides, and I think the recommendation ultimately goes to the council, but it'd be a separate commission, just like the Planning and Zoning Commission. So for charter cities, they have the option to handle it differently. You don't have that kind of option. The council cannot, this council in this city, because you're a general law city, cannot kick off another council member. It could come to public light. I think since I've been here, one issue did come up regarding, and I could say it publicly because Mr. Severs is gone, and also it was very public, and the issue came up whether he was living in the city limits. Is that an ethical issue? Well, we didn't include that one in this because I know that was a sensitive issue, but technically, if that was in here, could that be something the council member wants to talk about at the time?
Okay. So this is more like the vision statement. It's just a bunch of words.
Well, it's a little more than that. It's more of a
I know,
guideline.
that was a joke for Jeff Struble. Okay, so I agree with Robin, and we should be aware of this, and this will be a handout. The other one that I wanted to talk about was number 5B on possibly influencing other council members. I think that's the way government's been done since the country formed. I mean, if you know you've got council member Y that doesn't agree with you, you're going to go over there and say, hey, and you know that they don't think something, you're going to try to persuade them that this is why I've brought this up, this is why I'd sure like you to consider your voting this way. So I don't see a problem with that. Now, down the chain, I could see more of a problem with a board influencing a board below them. For instance, council trying to influence P&Z, but not among ourselves. I think we should all be able to lobby each other as long as we're not talking to a quorum situation. So I don't have a problem with trying to influence my peers.
I think we do that in our public meetings for the most part. I think,
It's a public thing.
yeah, I think what this is suggesting is that we're not calling 2 or 3 people up and saying, hey, this is what I'd like to see, how do you feel about it? I think what that's saying is that the conversation takes place in public because, in fact, we do try to sway other council members to see our point of view, but in a public meeting, in front of the public.
But if you know you're not going to see them, since we met last, I saw Robert and Krista. I didn't see the other 4. So we're not like we're rubbing elbows all the time. So if I want to talk to Jeff Struble, I'm going to call him up or whatever. So I wouldn't see a problem with that. If I wanted to explain a situation without calling 3 others, then I'm obviously violating.
Well, is calling someone the same as influencing someone, though?
Depends on what you say.
Yeah. I mean, you could call anybody about anything, and that's always okay.
To influence or not to influence, that is.
We could make whatever change you'd like to, Mr. Mayor and council. This is your document.
And it's a guideline.
Yeah, it's simply a guideline. This is not, nobody's going to come down the aisle with a sword and lop off your head if you call another council person. I mean, this is a guideline. And in some ways, I think that some of the members of council are taking this far too, I don't want to say seriously because that's not what I mean, but too, as though it's not breakable. This is something for us and for the people in the future who hold council seats and seats on various commissions. These are the expectations that they will be polite to one another, that they won't jump on one another and fight and scream and holler, that they'll, that they're not going to lobby behind everybody's back and come up with 3 people who are okay. We're okay with this. We all agree on this. Now let's go in the public and let's get your one more vote. Who's the easy one? Let's find him. It's just a document, folks.
Well, and the city had one originally
Yeah.
that Kathy gave me.
Just that short one.
That was a very short
Yes.
one, but once again, that was done when the city was much smaller, I don't know of one professional organization that doesn't have a document like this, that doesn't have filters. We have code of ethics that we have classes on every 2 years. That this is a normal, it's not forceful, it's just a guide.
Anyone else?
I just want to add one thing. I think this is a reminder to folks, just a reminder. By the way, you're in front of the public, be nice to one another. You know, set an example for folks. I don't know.
So we will be voting on this tomorrow.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I just want to put in my 2 cents because I just do. The better half of yesterday, I probably read 6 or 7 code of conducts from cities all around the valley. And for the most part, this mirrors it. It's a little bit of wording. It's kind of contradictive in some places. Like you mentioned, Section 10. I mean, that was not found in any of them that I've read. But, you know, at first I did have, you know, an issue with it. The new wording, obviously, the issue's gone, but I had to stop and ask myself that if there wasn't any litigation going on and this was presented to us, no matter how it was worded, I wouldn't believe that anybody would really have an issue with it because most people would think, yeah, that makes complete sense, that you really wouldn't want to get involved in a situation like that. I mean, and some may even, you know, say, hey, yeah, that's a great idea, have a buffer. I mean, you shouldn't kind of rub elbows with people who are in pending lawsuits. But again, the wording, I agree with Robin and Jeff about, you know, this is, it's acceptable as far as the fact that it's, you know, it's not tying the hands. It's basically saying, you know what, you know, tread lightly when you're talking to these people. You know, personally, I wouldn't even bring it up. But I don't really see, you know, anything in these changes that have been changed that would make me think that things need to be changed again. Like I say, most of these are, besides a few words being changed, they're identical to Code of Ethics or conducts from cities all over the valley. So I think it's probably time that we did have one. And that's all I have to say.
Anyone else?
So I had emailed Joel, unfortunately, right after, right after the changes had gone out. And I had actually gone through each one line by line and had some suggested changes. One of them, in regards to the, what was it, number 11, with the litigants. 10. Oh, I must have mixed up my numbers. That must have really confused you, Joe. I apologize.
That was interesting.
Number 10. What I suggested was, if I can find it, these were all mine.
That's all your red line?
It is, yeah, it's real difficult. My suggestion for number 10 was that members shall not knowingly communicate with litigants, because we come across situations where we may not know that we're communicating with a litigant. Shall not knowingly communicate with litigants or in pending action against a city. I would just suggest that we add knowingly, because it can happen that we don't even know that we're, use caution. Members shall use caution. I mean, I can agree with that, but there was a couple other things. I think it was number, on number 1, I suggested after the word conflict to just remove that last sentence. If recusal does not resolve the conflict, or if it appears to be an ongoing issue, resignation may be the only viable course of action. I don't think that's needed in there.
It's pretty harsh.
I think it's pretty harsh, and I would suggest to take out claims and transactions and just say that equal treatment of all persons should be the order of the day. I think it simplifies it a little bit.
Can you go back to the first one?
On
Which
number-
part?
On number 1,
Yes.
my suggestion would be to, in the second sentence, equal treatment of all persons, remove claims and transactions,
I got that one.
should be the order of the day.
So keep should be the order of the day.
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
Did you get that, Joel?
So it says equal treatment of persons should be the order of the day, period.
But
I
we're not
think
gonna
so.
treat any claims or transactions equally? Just a question.
What was the question?
We're, by removing claims and transactions, they're not going to be treated equally.
To me, treating all persons equally says that.
Claims and transactions are not necessary, they may be all kinds of things.
And then the last sentence, where it begins, if recusal does not resolve a conflict, I don't think we need that. I don't know what benefit we have to have that in there.
The whole sentence?
I don't think we need it.
Joel, could you explain an instance where if you recused yourself, it would not resolve the conflict?
Well, I think the intent of that one was, if they don't recuse themselves, it creates a conflict. And if there's other issues that come up later with the same individual or applicant, and they just refuse to recuse themselves, then I think that was the intent of that. Then maybe you should resign if you're not willing to identify that there's a conflict of interest with
But
a particular person.
this document includes the city council, though. So it's not just for board members, we're saying this to city council members.
Well, yeah, that,
Makes it weird.
we could tailor that, but we could also eliminate the sentence if you'd like.
Well, what it comes down to is we can't force anybody to recruit, whatever that word is, to get themselves out of an issue before them in the board or commission, or even us. That comes down to them personally being able to determine whether they're gonna be able to rule on any subject on a fair and as little bias possible on the issue. But the only real, and if they choose to resign, or if they choose to not recuse themselves, they're not gonna choose to resign themselves. And then we as council members are up for election every 4 years, and that's up to the citizens to decide that one. And then we as the council, reconsider all appointments every 4 or 6 years, depending on the board or commission. So that is the out on that particular issue. And it was like it was previously said in there, this has no bite to it. This is just this document is just something out there for us as council members to hold ourselves to a higher standard so that we can be an example to the other boards and commissions, to hopefully they will see how we act and then perform their duties in a like manner.
So to me, it's almost like code enforcement. If you're gonna have codes, make sure they're enforceable. Why have words just to have words on a piece of paper? If it's something that, again, this is for the council. This isn't, it speaks to the board members, but the council is getting ready to agree to this. And so for me, I think this document needs to be as simple as possible, not lengthy and not, I think the more specific we get, the more it does feel like trying to control individuals. And I don't like trying to control other individuals. I think it should be just very basic. And it just, we started out with a short document. We've got, I think, 3 pages here now. And so I went through, each one and had different suggestions just to simplify it. Just keep it simple and not make it about, again, the more specific we get in each one, it just seems like we're trying to say, you can't use your cell phone, you can't do this, you can't do that. If it's not enforceable, then let's not make it so wordy and have words just to have words.
We can strike the last sentence, sir, if that's.
I'll agree with that one.
Yep.
Number
Anyone
4.
else?
I have a few of them if the council will entertain.
Well, yeah, this is the time to do it, so.
Before. There was something brought to my attention that we talk about social media, but that we don't add letters to the editor in newspapers. As far as, let's see, in number 4, as far as public communications.
I didn't know what you meant by LTE. I
I
thought you meant long-term
I
evolutions.
saw that and I got confused when you wrote it. So letter to the editors. If somebody's going to write into a newspaper, or if there's going to be an article, we talk about social media and how we should conduct ourselves on social media. But maybe we should include letters to the newspapers or newspaper articles. That was 4. Number 5, I would just, again, it talks about social media, but nothing about newspapers. Number 6, my suggestion was to say usage of electronic devices at meetings should be used to conduct the business at hand. Keep it simple.
Section 6?
Yes. Nope. Boy, I totally messed up those numbers.
Number 8.
No.
Yeah, that was not, that was,
Here's section 8.
yeah, I apologize. Number 8, with cell phone usage. I would, my suggestion would be to just keep it simple. Usage of electronic devices at meetings should be used to conduct the business at hand. Shouldn't matter if we use a cell phone, it shouldn't matter if we, it shouldn't matter. If people use different devices, we just said people are using their cell phones for everything now, email and everything. I'm using my cell phone right now to look at my notes. Cell phones, it's an electronic device, just like, each one of these desktops and tablets, and so that would be my suggestion there.
Can you, so you want to get rid of A with just that, what's the simple statement? Say again? Can you say it again?
Usage of electronic devices at meetings should be used to conduct the business at hand.
Period.
If that's okay with the others, that was my suggestion. I don't know how I mixed up the numbers so horribly, I apologize.
We want to leave the emergency part in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Clapping, under number 8, I would delete all of that. I don't think we can control the audience. I think, I just don't think it even needs to be said. Now we're talking to audience members. If the mayor or a board president feels that they need to get the meeting under control, then that's their job. But to word it in here and say clapping by meeting attendees and is highly contentious and divisive, why do we need to say that? Members shall not roll their eyes. I don't think we need to specify anything, because there's times when we're all human, and we do have emotions, as much as we try to sit and listen and not respond with any emotion. But I listen to staff. I nod all the time. I wiggle in my chair. I move around. And so I don't know that we need, under 8, sections B and C, to be so specific.
Yeah, and this, I think, is supposed to be in response to, like, call to the public, or someone's responding to it, is what we're addressing?
Actually, it's come up in many different ways. One would be call to the public, another would be during a public hearing,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of people here, and 10 about 10, well, a little over 10 years ago, there was clapping at every council meeting, a call to the public, and then during some of the public hearings also by a particular group that was relentless, and they just wouldn't stop. And at the time, the council didn't really want to interfere with their clapping, but it did lengthen the meetings, and it made it very contentious.
My suggestion for 8 would be to delete B completely and to reword C to say members should be aware of nonverbal body language, viewable by the audience that may indicate their opinion or in reaction to comments from another member or speaker. Keep it simple. I don't think we need B, but again, these are my suggestions, obviously. I don't know what the other council would prefer.
Well, we're voting on this already tomorrow, so we need to talk about it now.
So what was that rewording on C again?
I would suggest to delete B.
Yeah, but how you rewrote C, what did that
C,
say again?
members should be aware of nonverbal body language viewable by the audience that may indicate their opinion or in reaction to comments from another member or speaker.
I can live with that.
So it's virtually the same thing, it's just not being specific on their motion.
Not as wordy and.
It's not a roll your eye or shake your head, it's just you should be aware of all your mimes.
Just be aware of them. I don't think we can sit here and tell people not to nod their head.
So, but it's virtually conveying the same message,
It is, with less words, and it gets rid of B.
specifics.
Number 9,
Do we want to,
I'll agree with that in the aspect on it, in that, because, we need to be aware of it in the aspect on, but what's the specifics calls out, it's not necessarily needed.
so Joel, we're kind of voting tonight on every paragraph. Is that legal?
Well, I've taken down the notes. I think I know what you want. What I propose is, I will do a red line tomorrow. I will get it to you in time for the meeting. And then hopefully you could vote on that version. Would that be acceptable?
Yes.
Would you want to do that, or do you want to bring it back in 2 more weeks? But, and the manager's going to hit me for saying that, because I know he would like to see this done, so we move on to other things. But I can certainly provide you a red line and hand it out, and then you could hopefully vote on that red line with a clean copy. Would that work?
Nobody's rolling their eyes or shaking their heads at all, so I don't know.
Well, the red line won't reflect the new verbiage,
Yeah.
right?
What I'm talking about when I say red line, I'm taking comments tonight. I'm assuming everything's acceptable except for what you're talking about tonight, and so that's what I will put in the red line. So the red line will show the comments that are, that you like tonight, and that everything else is acceptable.
So like, for example, but see, so the red line that I'm looking at in number 10 right here, not communicate in any manner, that's stricken from it.
Right.
Right, but you're saying tomorrow's red line won't be what's stricken, but what is added?
Everything that you like and have not mentioned, that will be accepted in the next red line. And everything that you've brought up tonight, you'll see highlighted, and also anything you want stricken. So it'd be a new red line based on tonight's discussion.
Or we could just bring it back.
Right, but it will also include the new verbiage.
Absolutely. From what we're talking about tonight, you'll have the new verbiage.
The section C that
Whatever-
Councilmember Rizzi
Yes.
suggested, okay.
Are there any other comments on this?
yes.
I figured there were.
Criticism of staff, number 11. Sorry, Joe, I have to keep going back and looking at the
I
clean
think what you
copy.
wanted was to take out the second sentence, starting with staff, and I think that was your comment.
Yeah,
And I think that was the only comment to that section.
Yep.
Is that correct?
I believe that was correct. And then number 15.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't see anything wrong with that sentence.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
That one appears to only be aimed at city council because do the boards and commissions even interact with the city
Sure they
manager?
do.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure they do. They all have staff members.
PNC,
Okay.
Parks and Rec, Library, everybody,
MPC.
yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with 11.
So long as it doesn't mean a disagreement is considered criticism.
That's not criticism.
No, that's
just-
not what,
Just
that's
throwing
not,
it out there, because you get, a disagreement can be turned into a two-sided situation, and usually when that happens, you're criticizing their point of view.
But you're going to act professionally when doing so.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's
And I won't even
asking
roll
you
my
to
eyes.
do. And you won't roll your eyes or anything.
Or clap.
Or clap. I will, however.
Number 17.
I think you had something in section 15.
I did, but the 15 looked good. It's, when I look at these red lines, Joe, and the yellow marks, I apologize, it's confusing.
all
I'm
right.
trying to,
Well, I think
Oh.
after representatives in the 1, 2, 3,
Number 11, did you want
fifth
something to say about that?
sentence down, you wanted to add in regards to such hearings. I think you wanted that added.
and then number 17. No, I think that was it, Joe. I think everything else, I think those were, I can't find anything else.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I appreciate council giving me the time.
Well, thank goodness you brought your cell phone. So I think that's everything for tonight, so we'll be adjourned until tomorrow.